Hello, everybody, and welcome to There's a Will. This week's edition will feature Philip Goss in the studio. Thank you, Phil, for being here.
Quite welcome.
Yeah, you're supposed to say it to me.
Well, it's happy to be here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they do on the big shows.
Hey, it's great to be here.
That's what they do on the big shows.
Yeah.
I like
Is this
that.
a big show?
Well, no, on the big shows.
Oh, this is a bigger show?
We're aping the big shows.
Ah, well,
We're aping. I'll be eating bananas later.
excellent.
I have a whole bunch of bananas to eat. First, I've written something for this show, some lighthearted beginnings, because we've been doing shows about the war all the time. But there's a lighthearted side to the news. It's not all gloom and doom.
Mostly gloom and doom, but
well, it's a lot of gloom and doom. Let's be honest.
So anyway, share some. Do indulge us.
Shall I? Just a few.
Oh, we'll indulge you.
Just a few remarks. Okay, just comments on the news. Okay, here we go. You ready?
No.
Okay. That doesn't help. You got to say yes.
Oh, I must be.
Oh.
Must I be?
Are you waiting with bated breath?
No.
What kind of bait are you using?
Chum.
You have to say yes, and then
Chum.
It's just being difficult. Okay. Here, you ready?
Yes.
You heard about the visit of President Biden. Okay.
Yes.
To Ireland. President Biden, not Biden.
Continue, please.
Biden visited Ireland for 4 days this week, or maybe 5. I'm not that precise on this news. Proving that the Irish are not so lucky after all. Okay? Next story. President Trump claimed that the courthouse personnel wept when he showed up after his arrest at the courthouse in New York City there. He neglected to add that their tears were crocodile tears.
Well, perhaps they were tears of laughter.
They could have been laughing. Yeah.
Mocking.
He neglected.
Were they mocking
He didn't
him?
add that second part.
Right.
It was important. Yeah. 3. Vladimir Putin,
Yes.
or however you say, Putin, as the British say. I say put in, because he was. Vladimir Putin will be issuing a new topless calendar focusing on his enormous breasts.
What does he identify as?
I'm not sure. He identifies as a dictator, I think.
With the K.
Emphasis on the first syllable. Yeah. The number 4. In the USA, a young Air Force National Guard was in charge under the Espionage Act for releasing classified Ukraine war documents on the internet. This raised the question, which is on everyone's mind. What did President Biden actually do in Ireland? That's the question on everybody's mind.
Oh.
In an unrelated story.
Yeah.
Okay? We mentioned it before.
Right. Never mind.
The point is, people want to know what the heck he's doing. Here's an important story. He hasn't addressed it at all. He's the president. He's supposed to say something.
Well, maybe he should say that we're investigating and that
You should say something.
it's certainly below his pay grade to investigate and press charges.
Well, I don't expect him to put on a hat like Sam Spade and drive his jalopy around and start asking the guy questions like a gumshoe.
But of course, a person who's in the Air National Guard is under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is not the same as civilian law, and it will treat him quite harshly. He will end up at.
He's been under the Espionage Act. He's already been charged.
Yes, but also under Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Yeah, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Anyway, we're going to talk about that story seriously in a bit. The Dalai Lama is one of your favorite people.
Dalai Lama.
I call him Dalai.
Well,
he's in the news for sucking a young child's tongue.
that's strange.
Sucking a young child's tongue, prompting Richard Gere to swear that the gerbil stories are not true.
Well, let's just not talk about certain religious medical procedures that involve wine and it's a procedure known as a bris.
Circumcision.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that involve sterilizing it with wine that is held in the mouth of the official performing.
Yeah, but he's not doing that. It just.
That's even worse.
He was sucking on his tongue. And I see nothing wrong with little tongue sucking between Dalai Lamas and children. Do you? Can you see anything wrong with that?
I question, yes.
Anyway, Richard Gere says the gerbil stories are not true. Okay, that's all you need to know. A Spanish athlete emerged after 500 days in a cave 70 meters deep underground with no human contact during this time. She was quoted as saying she thought she would want a shower. She has been approached by Christian Dior to be a spokesman for their new natural perfume, Essence Distinct. Essence Distinct. No?
No.
You like that?
No.
Listen, every week we're going to do one story. This is lighthearted stuff.
Essence de Pepe de la Pew.
Pepe de la Pew. I thought about that because he was a Frenchman. He's the skunk in the thing,
Yes.
which he's been canceled.
Cancel culture?
Pepe Le Pew has been canceled.
Because it's...
The cartoon skunk who would go on into a room
We're not
and
allowed
everybody
to
would
show
run
him
out.
anymore?
No,
Why not? Because of his womanizing.
because of his womanizing. Because he likes the ladies, and that's not allowed. You're not allowed to like the ladies anymore, even in a
Not
French
because
way.
of his stink, and not because of his Frenchness and stink being put together.
Smelliness is okay.
But Bugs
In
Bunny,
fact, Christian Dior is
cross-dressing
making money.
Bugs Bunny is okay.
Yeah.
But you know, cancel
What?
culture has existed for quite some time. And in the case, and it's interesting you bring this up, in the case of these Warner Brothers cartoons,
Yeah.
there were certain ones that basically were no longer shown after some time in the 1960s, early 60s. The
Yeah.
old racist, maybe some of them up until the 70s were still shown on television, but the old racist caricatures were quietly those episodes were quietly simply put back on the shelf and left.
Or movies like The Song of the South, Uncle Remus, based on Uncle Remus stories.
I'm thinking, of course, the Uncle Remus types of things as well.
Yeah.
Was it legitimate? Was it blaxploitation pre-1960s? I don't know. It's difficult for me to say, sitting here today in 2023, what it was or was not, how legitimate it was or was not, how exploitative it was or was not.
This is a question well worth exploring, but perhaps not today. But the evolution of what is so-called racism today, and I say so-called because it still seems what is racist to some people is not racist at all to
Right.
people of any color. We start with calling a sports team the Redskins. You know, the American Indians don't care generally. I mean, they took surveys.
Native Americans, I believe you meant to say.
Whatever. They don't care about that either. And they would rather that they would be allowed to make some money and have a decent education and move in, you know, continue their traditions, but also move through society.
I might say this.
Like anyone else.
Let's take the various sports teams which were recently refranchised from Washington Redskins to Washington Generals, was it? Or
Commanders.
Commanders, okay.
Which is a team I've followed since I was a
Cleveland
kid.
Indians, now Cleveland Guardians.
They were the Indians. And
right.
what's wrong with that?
Well,
They should have-
nothing, and here's why.
They should have changed it to the Native Americans.
Here's why nothing.
Why not?
My sister was involved in the attempt to preserve the name Cleveland Indians and the mascot because it was based on a real person, a man named Joe Sokolexis, who was a sports hero in Cleveland. He was a Native American, and he was excellent. He was a great player, and so they named their entire team after him, and they chose a caricature of this one guy in his honor. And then certain people decided that they knew better. Mm-hmm. And that they would not allow this because it was an affront to all. It was racist. It was in the honor of a particular person who was an excellent player and then became an alcoholic and destroyed his own career and his life. It's a tragic, it's a wonderful and yet then tragic story. But of course, why would we want to remember that? Let's just change the entire name mascot and forget his history.
The mascot thing is a problem. Even the University of Georgia, their bulldog mascot, animal rights people are saying, "Oh, poor bulldog, he shouldn't be." You know, it's incredible. He has an amazing life.
So we can all change our mascots to
I
scapegoats.
met Uga. He's
Can we
from
all be the
Savannah.
scapegoats?
Uga. Did you know that?
No.
He's from Savannah. There's one family that's been producing
Well, you know-
Ugas for years, decades,
The
half a century.
Chicago Cubs
and
have
more.
a goat mascot that they bring onto the field every game.
I mean, UGA's treated like royalty.
Where are the
Yeah.
animal rights activists claiming that,
These animals are treated like royalty.
they don't really want to know how the PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, acts unethically and indeed euthanizes many hundreds of animals a day.
Okay, I don't want to get
Let's
into that.
not believe the lies.
Yeah, let's move on. I want to do a Reader's Digest war joke of the week. Because the Reader's Digest, you can trust them. That's funny stuff. Yeah?
Top shelf.
Yeah, it's not funny at all. But that's the point of reading it. Anyway, here's the Reader's Digest, which was a CIA front organization for, I don't know if it still is, but it was for a long time, about wholesome entertainment in periodicals, in magazines. Okay, and here's the joke of the week. From the Reader's Digest, you ready for this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'll try.
Yeah. During a combat medical training class, the topic was blast injuries. This was from a fellow who was in Vietnam. Yeah. The instructor asked the class, what would you do if you came upon an injured man with a steering wheel embedded in his chest? And the guy raises his hand and said, drive him to the nearest hospital?
Ooh, that hurts.
That's a great joke. Okay, so much for the Reader's Digest. Okay, let's move on to the new stuff. Here's a picture of President Biden walking with the priest. I believe he was a priest who did the last rites for his son.
Are they doing the James
one who
Joyce
died.
tour, the Ulysses tour from pub to pub?
I have no idea. I don't know if
Well, while in Dublin, one must do the James Joyce tour.
I don't know. I mean, nobody knows what he's doing. It's a mystery. Well, some of the things we know, like this.
He's going from pub to pub as Ulysses
He's
may.
with his son, Hunter.
Yes, see, they're both doing it.
Yeah. So maybe they're doing, never mind.
They're pub
Never
hopping.
mind. No, I'm not going to get involved. That's going too low. But they could be involved with ladies and crack, but who knows? I didn't say that.
There's no
That's
crack in
not what I think.
Ireland.
Anyway, there's an article in the Telegraph talking about how the British are annoyed at Biden going to Ireland instead of to Britain. He's going to Ireland pretending he's Irish. Yeah.
Doesn't he have Irish heritage?
Oh, wait a second. We're going to be, we'll come back to the story. We're being joined by special guest star.
Oh, there he is.
Ralph! Ralph, what are you doing?
Hi, guys.
You're supposed to say, I'm talking to you. Are you talking to me?
That's right. Well, you know that one was
terrible
getting. You have a better voice. You're better with the voices than I am.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know.
We'll introduce
do the
our,
best we can.
introduce
I want
our
you
guest,
just,
please.
do you join us now? I'm trying to keep up, okay?
Do my best.
You're a good man. Where are you? Where are you today?
Right now, I'm in Rzeszow. I'm at a lovely little hotel out here on the entressola on the patio, and just doing my best to join into the conversation with the two people that I'm not used to getting being run around in circles, but today I'll get my, I guess.
You'll get your wings,
Yes.
which was a great album by Aerosmith. Their second
do
album.
be so kind as to introduce our guest, because it's his first appearance on the show.
Ralph McGraw, otherwise known as McGaw. Thank you. I forgot. I thought everybody already knew Ralph.
Well,
Ralph, when we were in Rzeszow, Ralph seemed to know everybody already, didn't you, Ralph?
Yes, for good or ill. Yes.
Well, we're glad you could join us today on the show, and we'll continue some of our hijinks from Rzeszow. Ralph has been living in Rzeszow, Phil, for a long
20 years,
time.
yes.
Yeah, 20 years. He's an expert, speaks Polish, expert on the area of Rzeszow, not only Rzeszow, but all the surrounding Podkarpathia, is it? Mm-hmm. The region? Yeah.
Podkarpacia.
Yeah, and which goes basically from Rzeszow down to the border and over to Bieszczady, southeast, right?
That's right. That's correct.
Does it include Przemysl, the border crossing there?
Przemysl is included. I've lived in Warsaw as well. We actually have some Roman Iwanski is someone that we know
He's
in common,
a good
one of
man.
our
He's a local
mutual
lawyer.
acquaintances.
Yeah, very good man from Canada.
Right,
Yeah.
and but I spent a lot of time in Krakow as well,
Yeah.
and in Śląsk. So all throughout the southeast, I consider myself pretty well versed in the history and a lot of what's fun and how to get in trouble and how to get out of trouble in most of the everywhere between Krakow and Lviv.
Gosh, well, you're the perfect guy for us to be talking to for future endeavors as well. So we're glad to have you on this show, and also for Poland Daily Travel coming up. When I get my cameraman sorted, I have a cameraman drama, and I hope to have this.
You do. I know some of this drama.
It's very dramatic because
That's
one of my
heartbreak.
cameramen. I have two cameramen.
Heartbreak.
Yeah, it's terrible, and I you know.
Had to, Ken.
I had to. And both of them, well, the first one, not both, the first one was named Vova, and he's from Kiev, and he's a
Right.
cameraman. And the second one, his name is Vova, and he's from Kiev, and he's a cameraman. So it's very confusing. And not just for me, for everyone involved, let's face it.
Including them.
Yeah, it's very confusing. The guys, you know, they do this mime thing when they see each other, like in the old... Yeah, the Vova 1 and Vova 2, we call them around here. Actually, I believe I started calling them that, and then it took over to solve the confusion. I mean, my goodness.
So which
Terrible
one's
situation.
coming? So which
one
Vova
of
is
them,
coming?
one of them enjoyed working with me so much that he moved to Canada.
That happens. I've met you, so yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
What?
Are you considering becoming Canadian, Ralph?
You're not supposed to say that. That's
I was
what's,
thinking about Australia.
that is
actually,
not
but
in
go
your
ahead.
script. Why am I using two pens? I
Better
should only
better
use
that
one.
than turning Japanese.
Turning what?
Japanese.
No,
Because
no.
of, because,
That's a
because
song
of the drum
reference.
roll.
I know, but I don't know why you said that. I don't know why you said that. That wasn't funny.
It was
Okay,
very
the
funny.
drum roll.
Yeah. Turning what? Japanese?
Yes.
Turning Chinese would be more appropriate.
It was the song was turning Japanese.
I know, but you say turning Chinese is the new version.
Oh, is it now? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that
is
would
that
be
the
funny.
K-pop version?
It would.
You're a K-pop
It'd be
fan,
on the
aren't
edge
you?
of being
You're
funny.
K-pop. It's okay. Your secret's safe with me.
I'm a K-pop. What? I didn't even know what that means. Yeah.
Yeah, denier.
But Phil does.
That's because
I
he
know.
taught me. Yes.
I know. Phil knows what it means. I have no idea, and he's making fun of me. Okay, I get it. Anyway, I try. Listen, you know what we were talking about? We're talking about some news stories now, right? Joe, Ralph, so you can join in. Joe Biden.
Yes, Tim.
Yeah. Bob. Call me Bob. This
Yeah,
thing
you
is-
want Bob Woodward. That's why. Not going to happen.
No, I'm not. I don't think I'm not Bob Woodward. Or
So
Bob
we were
Roll
talking
Wah Wah.
about Joe Biden in Ireland.
Joe Biden
do
in
get on with the
Ireland.
point,
For
yes.
goodness sake. Great
Do
Scott.
please belabor the point.
Joe Biden's in Ireland. Okay, who cares? That's the point of this. And the British are annoyed. And I saw an article from the Telegraph.
Did you read it?
No, I just saw it. I
Just look at pictures.
And I
Only
brought
the
in-
headlines, not even the pictures.
I looked at the pictures. There's one, and I printed it out. I printed it out.
Oh, that's with the president, yeah?
That's with Biden.
Prime Minister?
It's with Biden. No, that's the priest. Apparently, I believe it's the priest who gave the last rites for his son, who died in Iraq.
All right,
His
right.
name was Bo Biden.
Right.
And then his other son
I think he died of
immediately
brain cancer.
had an affair and married. I believe he married the widow.
Crazy.
Isn't that crazy? But that's
We just need more drama at home. Yeah, we need more drama.
my
coming out of
advice to you,
Washington.
Ralph, and I'm going to give this to you free, is watch your crack intake, okay?
Don't want
Because
to go too overboard.
It'll make you do crazy stuff. Now, Phil only uses crack like once every 2 weeks, like as if he were a shaman.
Well, you know.
Well, they picked up my shipment. I had some stuff coming in from South America. They got it in Russia recently.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, well, that's good to know. Thank you, but I mean,
We'll have to wait
don't
for the
give
next
too many
yes.
details on camera because we never know who's listening. If they're listening,
We don't know if anyone's listening.
if they're watching at all. Okay.
how long we been on?
What?
Nobody knows.
How long have we been on? How long has the show been today?
Well, we're
Today's
going to
edition?
we're going to have a break in a second. Well, not in a second, in a couple of 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll come back after the break for the next 25 minutes. Okay.
Okay, so they've already turned off, right?
Yeah, they're not here anymore. I mean, we
Okay,
had.
so it's just us.
We're monitoring this. We had a very large crowd, and then you joined us, and somehow it's.
And then it went to zero, just like that.
It didn't. It actually
Maybe
increased.
because I don't match. Maybe it's the
The one
matching
person
pattern.
watching is his Skype account.
It increased, but I don't want to tell you that because I don't want you to get a big head. So it did actually increase. We're monitoring that very carefully. There's a young lady over here who monitors all the statistics while we work. And yep, all right, okay, yeah. She says fine. Anyway. There's no fear of Joe Biden hating Britain because nobody really cares about the U.S. presidency anymore. The first line of this article in the Daily Telegraph. It's an uncomfortable truth to face, but the commander-in-chief has become an international laughingstock. I think they should say exactly what they feel, don't you? Yeah.
Is that a Rupert Murdoch title?
Yeah, they're putting, but they're, no, it's not. But they're not, it's one of the conservative ones that isn't. Telegraph is ancient.
Owned by Al Jazeera now, I'm sure.
Title, I don't know who owns it, but anymore. It used to be Conrad Black, wasn't it, from Canada? Anyway, he's become an international laughingstock, according to this. So he's joined Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
So we'll see more of him in the what's that the one that comes out all the time that everybody. Page 5. That's all I know about it. Page 5.
Page 3.
And is it page 3? Okay.
You mean
Yes,
the page
it's been a
3
while.
girl in the Sun?
That's right. The Daily Mail. That's what it is. Yeah. Oh, the Sun. That's
It's
right.
the Sun with the
Yeah, you
page
got
3
me.
girl, but the Daily Mirror
That's right.
is the labor rag, and it has one too. So
page
at
3
least it
girl?
used to. I don't read it, either one of them, but they used to have it. Anyway,
That is surprising. Yeah. I don't understand that why they would go that way because they're trying to improve relations with us, aren't they? I mean, when it comes to everything, all the support going to Ukraine.
well, I guess I don't know.
Do you mean Brits?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know that. I don't think relations are bad, so improving, I don't
No,
necessarily
they're
know.
not bad. I mean, they're not bad. It's just this is a family squabble, and Joe Biden went to Ireland. He didn't go to Britain. That's the whole point.
They felt snubbed.
And
Cinderella's.
Obama didn't, took down a picture of Churchill or something.
Yeah,
and
but
people would
the
get
anniversary
annoyed.
of the Good Friday Agreement something just happened right there, right?
Yeah, it was an anniversary, but I believe. But the problem is that it appears that the troubles may be starting again, just at a time when actually what we don't need is more trouble.
Right.
Certainly not amongst the allies fighting, or not fighting, but trying to preserve order in Europe by containing the Russian invasion of Ukraine, obviously. But I don't know. Anyway, this article goes on. It's in the Daily Mail. But you may not know there was the one I really like is this one. Is about this lady who spent 500 days in a cave, and boy, you can't tell, can you? You really can't tell that she was And my advice would be, if you wanna, don't use this as your online dating photo.
I imagine that people who were working remotely before COVID kind of had similar experience. So
I guess.
I don't see what the big deal is. And that's her claim to fame now, yeah?
Yeah, apparently this lady, whose name is Flamini, after she came out of the cave, she wanted a shower, which is not surprising, I suppose. 500 days in a cave doesn't sound like a lot of fun. She spent 2 birthdays in isolation there, Ralph. Did you know that? You didn't know that.
What was the whole point?
Just to see if she could do it, I think. And anyway, she missed the war in Ukraine, and she missed the death of Queen Elizabeth II, which are two, massive news things.
Mm-hmm. Where's she from?
She's from Spain. She said that she spent her time reading, painting, doing exercise, and knitting hats. It's that last part that gets me. I want one of those hats.
Let's see. Yeah, exactly. I want to see where they are. I want to see how many hats she's actually got.
But I want one, and I'm willing to put my money on the table. Okay, that's all we have time for. We've run down to the end of this first exciting segment. I want to thank you for staying awake, Phil.
I need a coffee.
He was up late last night, and obviously feeling a little drowsy. You okay?
Oh, yes. I just need more coffee.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to have a coffee break. Hey, watch. We'll be back with Ralph McGraw or whatever he's calling himself today. And and we'll be talking about some of his, a little bit more with the news, and then some of Ralph's fantastic exploits in Rzeszow, which are really fantastic. But I don't, they are interesting, and we'll come to those, and they have something to do with the war and the interesting things and very incredibly helpful things that Ralph has been doing out of the kindness of his heart. And so we'll come back after that. Watch these exciting messages. You're going to love them. Buy every product that you see. Thanks for watching. See you in a bit. Hey everybody, welcome back. The Dancing Girls have just vacated the premises. That was a great short show that they did for us. Did you enjoy that show, Ralph, and the Dancing Girls there?
It's just the fact that I could only see it, without the other five senses. That's what's,
Without the other five senses.
Yeah, yes.
But he's got like six senses.
Well, see, not the first five.
He
but
was
the sixth
using
sense
his sixth. You were using your sixth one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to explain that to the people, because everybody may not know that you have six senses. The biggest story of this week, Ralph, I should disclose that I met Ralph, Phil knows him, in Rzeszow this week, where we spent a few days. And Rzeszow is in southwest Poland. Southeast Poland, of course. And it's in Podcarpathia. It's the main city of Podcarpathia region. And there are about, 300,000 people, Ralph, there?
With the influx of 100,000 Ukrainians, that's right.
Yeah. So it's really, the war has changed it. But we'll talk about that. We can talk about it now if you want to, just a bit, because I noticed a big change in Rzeszow from several years ago to now. I mean, it's a really bustling.
Well, I mean, Ralph, clearly you're a much greater expert on Rzeszow than either Will or I. However, I think, in my perspective, Rzeszow has changed for primarily two reasons: the influx of American contractors and military cooperation, as well as the refugee situation coming out of Ukraine, and some people simply stopped at Rzeszow and went no farther. How have you observed the past 13, 14 months in Rzeszow and the changes what are the changes you've noticed?
Well, you're right on both points. I would say there's a one-third factor is that you have a lot of international NGOs, which are now, they have operational office here in Rzeszow. They may have headquarters in Warsaw, but a lot of places have actually been their country heads. For example, MedAir, World Vision, Save the Children, they were all out of here for quite a while. A lot of other big acronyms that I don't remember what they all stand for. Danish Relief Council, for example. They're all headquartered out of Rzeszow. So that's completely changed this place. I think it's more common to come across people from those kinds of organizations here in Rzeszow right now than it is in any other part of Poland. So just small and very intense experience. Not only when it comes to the economy, of course, you have a lot of euros and dollars and Swiss francs or whatever pouring into the region, but when it comes to people's mindset. So, yeah, and then of course the Ukrainians. What happened was they all came in here, and a lot of people changed their attitudes. Either people who were slightly right-wing went more extreme, like Confederation kind of people who follow, what's that guy out of Shlonsk? the one with the old mustache. Same sounds like Telween. You know, I'm talking about that extreme right-wing politician.
I don't
Polish.
follow him.
No, I don't know either.
Well, that guy, and or of course Brown and one of his old, I think his mentor. So it's like those guys have gone more right-wing. People have told me that there's no war here, that there's nothing going on, but they
What?
refuse to go down to. Yes, they refused here in Rzeszow. They refuse to go and see places like the train station or refugees, and their only topic is about the massacre in Wołyn. So
I don't know what that is.
But-
Massacre. What?
really, so you know about Katyn? because
You mean
of the anniversary-
historically? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a really big
The
topic
massacre by Ukrainian partisans of Polish people, is that what it is?
here. Yeah, the
Yeah.
UPA.
The Bandera,
right? And so
the
they- and
Stepan
they- and
Bandera.
they
Yeah.
don't- Yeah, they don't know that whole history. So it's like I end up telling people a lot of history about that, how the extreme right wing of UPA, it's like the MAGA Republicans. So, but imagine that they were still a minority. And what they did was they did murder brutally quite a few Polish women and children and old people.
Yeah, but
But
MAGA Republicans aren't murdering anyone, so.
Yeah.
But that's the thing.
I thought
But
I'd throw
imagine-
that in.
Well,
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. But,
Well-
but imagine that
No,
they
wait,
had
wait. I
murdered-
can't have you say yet
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
because actually more people died from the Antifa, and more property, much more chaos was caused by Antifa, which is left wing or anarchist. Not that anarchy is always bad, but as Mr. Leyden, John Leyden taught us, but then from anything to do with MAGA. And so let's be careful what we say. Let's be fair.
Okay, sure. So-
Let's not be
so
too
what-
partisan. Let's say what's true, but not
Well,
partisan.
I'm just saying that there's UPA would be, say, for example, like the Republican Party, and there was the extreme part of the UPA, and they murdered just as many other members of UPA who were defending Polish people. So they murdered just as many, around 20,000 other Ukrainian members of the UPA, and this
Yeah,
is
but
why.
this is like
Yeah.
the whole problem with looking at this kind, these pogroms that took place, or these massacres that took place, is you have to understand how complicated the history of this region is, because when you have a region under outside powers coercing any kind of political uprising that they can, whether it's left, right, the people in that under that kind of pressure of an occupying force do not behave normally.
Of course.
So the history of the
I
know, but I'm
completely
just
agree.
saying, I know you know, and I know Phil knows, and I know because we know this area. But it's very easy to get carried away of these things, and it's also easy for people within these countries to look back to these factional events of the past where people were murdered. Let's call it what it is.
For sure.
And this is what happens when people are under pressure and not able to democratically vote for themselves, which is why you want to spread democracy.
Ralph, I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you, given the NGO presence there that has clearly grown from zero to quite a large number over the past year or so, is there a location where these international NGO types tend to gather? I'm thinking about something like Casablanca, right, where there's the place where all the foreigners go. Is there a pub like that or a restaurant like that in Rzeszów where they all tend to gather, whether it be just whatever given evening or a particular night in the week or something?
Well, that's the thing. That's the difference, because it's not Warsaw, because it is Rzeszów. There's basically two main watering holes that they all gather around. And so it can be really interesting while you're sitting down, listening to people from, an international group of people at one table talking about humanitarian aid and getting some containers of toiletries and women's products into somewhere like Dnipro. And at the very next table, you can have other guys talking about delivering decidedly non-humanitarian, let's call them products, closer to the front line, or zero line, as they call it nowadays. So if I could return, so yeah, there's two places exactly. If I could return to the last point, Will, 100% I agree with what you're saying about these topics, and they're so convoluted. But I think it's really important that the three of us who are talking right now, that we do discuss this, because we bring an important voice into the conversation that's missing.
Yeah, I'm
Usually
not
his-
cutting.
usually-
I'm not
usually in
cutting
history,
off
we've
the
been-
discussion. I'm just saying perspective, context is absolutely
Exact-
essential, or else you get drawn into this morass.
That,
And
that's
I don't
right.
want to be
And-
there. I don't want to be there.
So-
I don't want to label things and leave it at that, because they're human beings, and you have to try to understand what kind of obsessions.
Well,
That's
right.
the
And-
historian in me, you know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing. When you have politicians discussing history, that's a really bad sign of the time. That's
Well, they're
some
not
writing on the wall.
historians.
But exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you have politicians discussing history, but also I want to say, because we're not either on this, we don't have the background of the people who were the sprawców, the people who committed some of these things, nor do we come from the side of people who were victims. We're more neutral, and we have a list maybe just as passionate about these things, but
Well, no. If you want to talk about the American Civil
we're
War,
neutral.
or you want to talk about World War II, or because both of us had relatives fighting. You probably did too in the Civil War. I had relatives fighting on both sides in the Civil War, American Civil War.
Revolutionary War.
Yeah, and Revolutionary War too here, but only on one side, the good side, our side, the American side. But and at least in that conflict, and now the British are our closest allies. 200 years later. So the whole
That's right.
point is that things change. You must look at these incidents in their historical context, and you must be fair as you can be about gathering the facts. Although it's almost impossible not to have some opinion, but that's different, right? It's like if you're a scientist looking at a particular, I was going to say a particular virus, but then that gets political too, because everything gets politicized nowadays.
I think that's an interesting point about the over-politicization of everything.
I want to stay away from that.
And I agree that it's important that we take a step back and try to look at issues with a sense of detachment and a sober analysis of the situation, and not some over-emotional knee-jerk reaction, which media and people tend to be so quick to do nowadays.
Yeah, and on YouTube and whatever, it's, we all know, here's the old thing, we all know what feels right and what feels wrong. We all know when we're doing something wrong, when we're doing somebody an injury, and when we're not, or when we're fighting just for our rights. Yeah, we know the difference. And that internal barometer that people naturally have is something we must be aware of in these discussions.
But some people don't have either an inaccurate barometer, or they are missing their barometer.
Okay, so you keep talking sense. That's your answer to that. You keep talking sense based on facts.
And some people are immune to sensible argument.
Well, you still have to keep going with that. You can't join. That's true, right? But
You're both correct.
Yeah.
If I can interject.
Not
You're
trying
both
to be
right.
correct, but
Because some people
fair.
are hard-headed, and when they are, it's like what we have going on in the States, and also here, when people support someone and they listen to the sensible person, like, for example, if we said in this conversation, like you're saying, Will, which is 100% I agree with, that we have to keep that conversation going. The people who sometimes their reaction to understanding that they were wrong, the person they supported wrong, is simply to double down.
Absolutely, and that's why you have to keep talking sense. And it's very difficult, but if we don't, we'll destroy ourselves.
Now, the Asian...
If we don't do, I suggest if we don't do what I'm saying, not just because I'm saying it, but other people say it too, the voices of moderation.
I would add this, though, as well.
Then we'll destroy ourselves.
An essential tactic is an Asian approach to a person who is doubling down when they are obviously in the wrong, because they're afraid to admit wrong. And that is to give your opponent a face-saving line of retreat. They're not maybe even opposed to changing their opinion, but what they are most averse to is losing face.
Well,
And so if
there's
we-
Phil.
Yeah. If we-
Phil's the debate king here.
Well, no, that's absolutely,
his background. No, it's true.
It's a great
But,
debating tactic. Well spotted.
That's
So
right.
you say,
That's right.
well, I can see your point. I can and go over that point, and then say,
And actually,
and give it some air, and then present your view. Yeah.
well, I think that what Phil is saying is it's even better sometimes. Is let someone explain their point. Why do you feel that way? Why is it you feel that way? And you give that person a chance to
I
come
thought
out.
I
And
just said that.
Well, yes, but they're
thought that's what I
averse,
said.
maybe not so much to changing their line of thinking and argument, but they're adverse to looking bad in doing so.
Of course, nobody wants to look bad.
And if we give them a way not to double down, but to change course gracefully.
Yeah, there's a lot of that needs to be done today, right across the board and virtually every subject that we could tackle, because you must find the common ground, the 80% ground or 70% ground that you can move through
Great point.
issues. You can move through issues. But this polarization everybody talks about is what the problem is. Can I bring up a topic that we discussed before? Because it is the main subject of the week, and that is the FBI arresting this fella called Jack Teixeira from Massachusetts, Air National Guard employee, they say, who posted these Pentagon documents online, where he got access to these. Why you're letting a 21-year-old National Guardsman have access to these kind of documents, I will never understand.
Now, but here, let's go through the parlance here. They're saying classified documents.
Yeah.
Let's look at where classified stands
Okay.
in the ladder of secrecy. Everything's classified, and that doesn't really mean a whole lot. Beyond that is secret, beyond which is top secret, beyond which is sensitive. Had they used the word sensitive or top secret, I might be inclined to pay more attention, but they're saying classified as if that were a synonym, which it is not.
Well, no, it says
Classified-
highly sensitive Pentagon documents.
Oh, then if it's highly sensitive, then that does matter.
That's the phrase that's being, but they're all classified. you're right.
Sensitive is the word that matters.
Yeah, and we know that supposedly they are from the various things that have been disclosed. For example, the state of air defenses in Ukraine and the amount of casualties on both sides, Russian and Ukrainian, and how contradictory that information seems to be from what the reports are from not only the Ukrainian government, but the governments in the West and the Russians. So, not that you can trust the Russians. You can't trust anything coming from a dictatorship, Chinese or Russian or anybody else. But the very fact that this comes out shows the open society we live in. But the point is, here's this guy doing this fellow Jack Teixeira. He's 21, and he's got hold of these documents to impress his friends, apparently.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please.
So I don't know if you Phil might have mentioned this, but I'm actually a former Intel analyst. So I was a Mandarin linguist, and I could tell you it's pretty easy for some kids to get a hold of these documents, because once they're inside of what's called a SCIF, a secure area, there's only a few kids in there together, and no one's really managing that. And there's a lot of stuff which comes all across the wire, and they see that, and but it's true. They've got to run a tighter ship sometimes, because it's something where we run on something used to be when I was in the military. It was basically on a need-to-know basis that you could have access to certain information. You could only get information that was really old, but but I completely agree with your assessment that a 21-year-old kid that probably was disrespected by his, he didn't get much respect among his colleagues at work or his command, and they weren't managed very well, obviously, at all. And and he went out seeking respect in the gaming community. So pretty lame, anyways.
It's pretty lame, and thanks for offering that was very interesting. It's still all of these cases of these types who release information do it for two reasons, and I think that's the great comment by Ralph here. They seem to do it for two reasons. One is money. The other is an ego problem.
Well, I think
100%.
releasing information
Right?
is one,
Yeah.
but transmitting to
Yeah.
somebody else clandestinely is another. And we
Yeah.
know that people can be convinced to transmit information clandestinely through any of each person has his or her own button to push. It might be drugs, it might be money, it might be I want my kid to go to some private special school. You figure out what that is in the intel world, and you push that button.
Absolutely.
This kid had no button like that. He wanted to have respect in his gaming community.
Absolutely, you're right, Phil. That's also
that's right.
a great comment. Yeah.
That's right, Phil, because what you're saying here is like external forces looking to probe. And this guy was just, how do you say, he had his insecurity complex, whatever, that he had to go out there and try to get some respect with some other kid, among a bunch of kids.
Yeah. We've only got a couple of minutes left. How about that? It goes fast, doesn't it? Yeah. With Ralph and with Phil. Just in these last 2 minutes, what do you think the impact is? What do you think the impact is of the release of these documents? Why don't you go, Ralph, and Phil will sum up at the end.
Thank you. I don't. It's difficult because we don't have access to what the full scale is yet. We don't know what information is out there. When it comes to other governments and things that we say about them or spy on them, whatever, they do the same to us. And so in the intel community, it's more public relations. Everybody knows that everybody spies on each other.
How much of this is real? How much is disinformation? I guess that's a better possible disinformation.
You mean in those
Hazard a guess. Yeah.
How much is disinfo? I'd say very little.
You think it's pretty real? Okay. From a guy who
Yeah.
used to go through this sort of stuff for a job. Phil?
I can see how it could be disinformation. I can see how it may well not be disinformation. I also don't know how time-sensitive these documents were. They talk about air
Apparently
readiness.
they've been out there for a
Exactly.
while.
Yeah,
and
so-
they've just been noticed now.
If it's a snapshot
Yeah.
from 3 months ago,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much out of date, no question.
Yeah.
If it's a snapshot even from 1 month ago, it's still kind of no longer maybe. It's still no longer as accurate as it may have been a month ago.
It makes me wonder how many other people are doing this who haven't been caught, and why
Exactly.
we have so many very young people. They don't have no business being in charge of this or around it. It shouldn't be allowed. It's weak, it's woke, and it's stupid.
Well, that's the federal government where they decide that they will hire and promote people based on the boxes they check rather than on the merit and security interests that they indeed represent.
Well, I don't think this guy was checking any ethnic boxes, but or any special interest boxes from that point of view.
May I?
Yeah, please jump in.
It comes down to also simply a shortage of people with the skills, and that they end up taking some people that they probably shouldn't. And honestly, this falls back on the guys who did his background investigation for him to get that kind of job, to see where his weaknesses are.
Thank you. We got to go. Thanks, Ralph. Very nice.
Sure.
Ralph McGraw in Rzeszow.
McGaw.
McGaw or McGraw?
No R.
I'm not from that Irish clan. Yeah,
McGaw.
no R.
Oh, it really is
The
McGaw.
small clan.
I thought you changed it. Okay.
London, Derry.
I thought you changed it for Facebook. Okay. McGaw. All right. And that's so funny.
You added the S.
I apologize. I apologize.
You added a letter. We took one out.
Thanks, Phil, for Phil Goss and Ralph McGaw. I apologize, sir, for being with
Pleasure.
us. Ralph, I hope you'll come back and join us on a semi-regular basis when you can.
Sure thing.
See you, everybody. And may I say, you're looking well. Why don't you stay that way?